Welcome back to the channel. Well, in a recent video, which I'll link above and also in the description below, I spoke about a new feature coming in Air Manager 4.2 that's a real game changer for home cockpit builders. It allows you to stream your video from your cockpit instruments and incorporate them into Air Manager instruments that can be moved, resized, and run on any device running Air Manager. Your panel will no longer have to be attached to the computer running your simulator and using pop-out windows and trying to align bezels over popped-out instrument windows. In fact, you can even use a tablet computer to display instruments now and still have the video. Once it's set up, you just open the instrument or the panel and it's all there, ready to use. So in this video, I'm going to explain how it works and how to set it up and how simple it really is. I'll also show you a multi-function display that I made for the Zibo 737 that can be set to respond like any display in the cockpit and display the correct video. Now, this new technology is only available now on X-Plane 12, but if you're a Microsoft Simulator user, please hang in here and see what it's all about. It would really be great to get Microsoft to include this possibility in their simulator too. So here's how it works. X-Plane currently makes the textures for the glass displays available for pop-out use in extra windows. Air Manager now allows those textures to be video streamed to Air Manager panels, either on the same computer or to a network computer. This source video can be incorporated into Air Manager instruments, and the video from the simulator is streamed real-time to the Air Manager panel. No more arranging windows under cutouts in Air Manager instrument panels. It just works. You just open it and it works. So let me show you how unbelievably easy it is to add a video stream to your Air Manager instrument. To add a video stream, we use the Video Stream Add function as shown in the SimInnovations wiki. First, we can assign a name in case we need to reference the video stream in the future. Next, we need to assign a key which helps Air Manager to know where to find the texture that's going to be streamed. The API section of the SimInnovations wiki has a complete listing of the currently available keys for use with X-Plane 12. The first three are generic textures that are available to most aircraft in X-Plane and usually contain a number of different instrument textures combined into a single large texture. More on that later. The rest of the list are predefined keys for specific instruments within X-Plane. For example, you can see references to the GNS 530s and 430s, G1000s, also some aircraft-specific instruments, for example, for the Citation 10. I would expect to see this list grow over time as the video streaming becomes more common. Looking at a specific example from the list, you can see that the G1000 PFD number 1, which would be the left captain side, is shown as XPL/G1000_PFD_I. And this needs to be entered with the quote signs into the key. Just think of the key as the stream source or the texture that you want to send over video streaming to Air Manager. The next four parameters define the location and size of the stream that you want to appear on your Air Manager instrument. Looking at this G1000 PFD example, we want to stream the video to fit inside the bezel in the area highlighted in green. Measuring from the upper left corner, which is the 0 point, the X value is the distance we move to the right, the Y is the distance down from the top, and the width and the height define the size of the stream. So while the key is the source for the video stream, the last four parameters define the stream's destination on the instrument. And just one word of caution: if the destination dimensions don't have the same aspect ratio as the source, it's going to stretch the image to fit the destination coordinates. So it's important to keep the aspect ratio the same if you want it to look correct. While it is possible to dig through the X-Plane files and find these source textures to see the sizes. It would be great if Sim Innovations would include the source native width and height along with the keys in the wiki. Now just a quick example on the Cessna 172 analog instruments looking at the G530 screen. So I'm going to create an example using this line of code. We'll use PFD stream as a name for the stream. You can see video stream add. We've used the key for the GNS 530 number 1. Of course in quotes because it is a string. Then the coordinates for the destination. And they're going to move the stream right 10 and down 10 to create a little border. And I've used the native resolution of the source GPS 530 screen. But as long as it's proportional, it would be fine. In this case, we're not trying to fit it in a bezel, so we just want it to look right. So here's what we're looking at. We have the source video being sent to Air Manager. And you can see I put a gray background here to show you the boundary that we would see because it's sitting on top. The beautiful thing is this can be layered right in with all the other layers of Air Manager. So we can put the bezel on top of it without a clear opening, or we can set it inside the bezel right on top of the bezel center. And it makes it much easier and no transparency required. So let's show you how easy this is. I'm going to make a new instrument and we'll call it something like a generic, oops, I spelled it, generic stream 530, and we will make it well, the actual graphic is 520 by 390, so let's add a 10 pixel border around it. So we'll make it 540 or 20 more, yeah, 540 by 410, compatible with X-Plane. Add, and we'll open that up here, and I'm going to add a little graphic that I'm going to show you why I did that later. I want to be sure we can see the border, so I'm going to open the resources and copy and paste a graphic in here. It's just a little graphic with a gray, just a gray, solid gray background. Okay, we're done there. And then let's go ahead and paste from the wiki. I'm going to paste the video stream add function in there. We'll add the key in here, and as you can see from the list there, what it is for the 530, the number 1 unit. We'll open quotes, and then we'll paste, and we'll close the quotes. And since we have a 10 pixel boundary, we'll start it at 10 and 10. For the upper left corner, and the width of the video stream is 520, and the height is 390. And I'm going to add one more line ahead of this. Of course, these are layered, and I'm going to take this, I'm going to have to do an image full screen, add an image. So that's not required. The one line will do the trick, but let's see what happens. We'll save that, and we'll click run. And you can see there's our instrument with a boundary around it. Of course, we can put this into any panel that we want, and then in the layout, move it around wherever we want on our panel layout. And let me move some knobs here to show you that it is responsive very rapidly to anything that happens. There's no real delay noticeable. It's definitely the easiest way to bring one of these complex instrument displays into your home cockpit via an Air Manager panel. So now let's look at some of the optional parameters that you can add to the video stream add and how that'll help you interact with some of these generic textures that we spoke about before. There are 4 more optional parameters that you can add, shown as text X, text Y, text width, and text height. Just like the key, these are related to the source texture that's being sent into Air Manager for display in the video stream. If these are missing, the entire texture is sent and displayed in the parameters that we used as in the previous example. But many times these textures can incorporate many instruments, like you see here. This is one of the generic textures I mentioned before, and it's for the Airbus 330 in X-Plane 12. It's 1024 high and 2048 wide, and it contains all the instruments that are needed for that cockpit in a single texture. Obviously, we might want to make a number of instruments using these textures and take a small portion of this texture and use it to display it in the instrument that we are building. In this case, the text X, text Y, text width, and text height are the area on this specific texture that we want to send in the video stream. So if we wanted to create a PFD using the captain's PFD in the upper left, we would need to determine the coordinates of that. In this case, 0, 0 would be the upper left corner, and the texture height and width. And we can send that using these extra 4 coordinates to the location in the first 4 coordinates in the video stream add function. So the way to think of it is that the texture key and the texture variables shown in yellow tell Air Manager what part of the texture to get and to send to the instrument. And the other variables tell Air Manager where to put it on the destination instrument. Now, if you don't give it texture coordinates, as we did in the first example, it just sends the whole texture. And of course, still remember that it will always be stretched to fit whatever destination coordinates you give it. So you need to match the aspect ratios of the source video and the destination video. So let's look at an example on the Airbus A330 and see how this works. So where do we find these generic textures? Well, we look in the X-Plane folder and we look in aircraft. This is pretty much the same for every airplane. And Laminar will go for one of those planes. We'll look at the Airbus 330, Cockpit 3D, and there's a thing called panels. And you can see there's a panel here. Look at it. It's 2048 by 1024. This is the texture that we were looking at before. But as you can see here, it looks dark, and that's the way it may appear. We need to figure out a way to display this texture if we're going to pick out the instruments like we just did. So we open that up in paint.net, and you can see it's just black. So how are we going to get this texture to show? Well, that's what I'm going to show you now. Well, the trick is we're going to create an instrument and stream in full size the texture so that we can get to a screenshot of it and use that screenshot to derive the coordinates for the different instruments. So we'll call this Airbus and texture. We'll make it the size of the texture. We said it was 2048 by 1024, and we'll make it compatible with X-Plane, and we'll add that instrument. Now, let's open that instrument and look at the logic script, and we'll add the video stream function for our key. We have 3 choices, as you recall, for the generics that could be used. So let's paste one in here, the X-Plane panel, and see what happens. We'll go up and put our 0, 0 so it's aligned in the upper left. We'll set the width to 2048 and the height to 1024 so that we'll match up the texture size, the size of our instrument. We should get a full-size picture of it. We'll click Run. So we get a nice white texture here, so that obviously was not the right key. So let's stop that and try another one. We'll use the gauges, element 0 first. See what we get. X-Plane gauges 0 in the square brackets, and bingo, we got it. So now we have something we can work with, and we can take a screenshot of this. Might have to slide it around and take a couple screenshots to put it together, but once we get a full-size screenshot, we can get the coordinates off of it. So I'm going to open this screen capture in my paint.net. I like this program because it's free. And I'm going to use the cursor to get an idea of the coordinates. In the bottom left, you can see it says top left has the width, the rectangle size. I can see that I need 0, 0 obviously for the top, and then 510 and 503 at the bottom. You can see the coordinates. And once I have those coordinates, I can use those to make the changes to our script and only stream the part we want. Now let's jump back into Air Manager and modify that. Right now we have it streaming the entire texture, and we want to change that. So first we're going to change the size of the destination that we want to put that on that wind instrument. So we'll change it to the same size. And if we output it at the same size that it goes in, we know that we're going to have the aspect ratio correct. So we'll put 00, 510, 503. Now what will happen if we would run this now, we would get the entire texture scrunched into that little area there. So obviously we need to put some parameters in the texture variable so that we are only capturing that upper left corner there that we wanted. So let's stop this and let's add those additional coordinates, and we can set it for 0, 0, and we'll use the same coordinates, so we'll give it a full size, 510 and 503. And if we try that, we'll click Save and click Run. And now you can see we still have our big window, but we have the stream matched up on the right aspect ratio, actually the same size as the actual texture. And there we go. We've demonstrated that we can do that. Now for a little academic exercise, let's try multiplying the width and the height times 0.5 or half. There's 510 times that, and let's do the 503, 0.5 times, and then let's click Run after we save, and we'll click Run. And you can see now the size is down to about, well, exactly half the size it was with the original texture that we did originally. Now for one more little thing, let's try getting rid of the 0.5 factor in the width. So we'll get it back to normal width, and but we'll leave it half on the height, and we'll just demonstrate that the aspect ratio will be whatever the output is, regardless of the input. And there we go. You can see it stretches that image full width, but it's only half height now. And that's how that'll work. So my interest in streaming windows kind of is related to these panels that I created for the Zibo 737 a while back. I'll link the video above. The displays were actually pop-out windows produced by a program called Texture Extractor that allowed us to take those textures and put them on the desktop, and then we position them underneath openings in the Air Manager panel to allow them to show through. You can imagine sometimes getting things lined up was a little troublesome, and it took some time to set things up sometimes if they got out of alignment. The beauty of the new streaming system that Air Manager has is that they can be part of the panel, and they should be able to be dropped right into these panels, resized and dropped in there in the place of these openings, and it should work just fine. I'm going to try to make those available, and I'll tell you where to find those at the end of the video. The problem with this was that the textures that are displayed in the windows were in a stationary position, so you couldn't change the displays like you can on a real 737 by using the main display unit and lower display unit selectors that are located above the two main displays. Well, I'm happy to say that that problem has been solved with version 4.2 of Air Manager and streaming video. These displays are actually all the same instrument with a user preference to determine the position, whether it's the outer, the inner, the upper, or the lower position. Once that's set, it reacts in the correct way when it responds to changes in those switch positions. It wasn't without some difficulty, and it took some special programming by Corin at Sim Innovations, who added a function called Video Stream Set. The problem I was having is that as I added a new stream to try to replace an old stream, it gets put on top, and if there's a bezel above, it gets left underneath, and these things keep stacking up. So the solution was this function which allows you to change the parameters of a stream in real time without stopping the stream itself and having to reestablish everything again, which creates some increased processing requirements. The function is quite simple. You just have a reference to that previous established stream, as you can see, we mentioned that earlier, and then you have the coordinates of the source of the stream, which allows you to take a multi-image texture like the one we saw for the Airbus and allows you to change the coordinates of the area that's being used as the source. The result is you're able to have fully functional display units that can be changed by rotating the switches. You can see below the cockpit that there's a slight delay, and I'm doing this on a very old notebook computer, so that may be part of the delay. But the good news is it works exactly right, and the correct display ends up being there even if there is a small minute delay of a part of a second or so. It would really be great if Microsoft would undertake something like this and make this available. Just make the images available for the display units for other developers to interact with. But to be quite honest with you, I have not broken the code on how to make any inroads in talking to Microsoft Flight Simulator. I get one vote like everyone else, and we put those votes on their scoreboard, and they decide by the democratic method what should be changed next. And obviously, as a cockpit builder, you have a different preference than people who are gamers or doing other things. We'll make this instrument available for those who'd like to try to add it to the other instruments that I've created. They're available on a website called freesimstuff.com. I did a video about it. They have some other things there that might interest you, and they're all free of charge. Just things that people, either we've created, might be people that I know or others. It's just a kind of a way to pay back to the community for all they've done for us. Well, pop-out windows have had a great effect on home cockpits and allowed people with a very marginal cost to add a lot of realism, to add glass displays and other instruments using Air Manager to their instrument panels. But these streaming instruments really have a lot of potential to make this process even easier. And I hope this video has been useful to you. If it has, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe. Please like my videos, share them with your friends, and I'd love to have your comments. I know this one was a little technical and a little bit nuts and bolts, and it was X-plane oriented, but I hope it was useful to you. Oh, and I hope I'll see you at Flight Sim Expo in Houston in June. I plan to be there helping the guys at the Sim Innovations booth, talking about Air Manager. Thanks for watching. Hope I'll see you on my next video.